All my memories of love hang upon high stars. All the souls I've lost to tears now the autumn jars, and the air around me here thickens with their song. Sing again their nameless tunes, sing again and strong. Willows in September touch the water clear, set among the rushes tall of the flowing year. Rising up from sunlit past comes a shadowed sky, running toward me silently, love to fortify. Many are the graceful hearts hung upon this tree, and it seems there's room for mine on these branches free. And the sky above the tree, whether wet or bright, is my ease and comforting, my good news and light.
Today we make a Sabbath, here in virtual space, unbounded by a parking lot, and time unfettered by a calendar. An ancient Sabbath made for present rest and future joys. And now we are a congregation, and you have found a Sabbath you were called by love to join. And now that we have gathered as a virtual Unitarian Universalist community, we light a chalice with words written by Bear Kolesua. As we light the chalice, may our souls become its hearth. We join our hearts to the one great flame of bright compassion. Beloved community and fervent justice, may we become lanterns to the world, lighting the way for all. Red River Unitarian Universalists, whenever they gather, say this spoken affirmation. And I invite you to say these words as well, if you see them on your screen. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another. The opening thought for this morning's program are the words famously said by Martin Luther King Jr. when asked about nonviolence and violence. He said, "I'm concerned about a better world. I'm concerned about justice. I'm concerned about truth. And when one is concerned about that, he can never advocate violence. Darkness cannot put out darkness. Only light can do that."
We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, the world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. Feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. Feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way.
The first reading today is from the Gospel according to Matthew in the 5th chapter. It's called the Beatitudes, or the Sermon on the Mountain, but it won't sound familiar perhaps to you because there's no beatitude in it. There's no blessing in it. I'm using the Scholars Translation from the book called The Five Gospels, The Search for the Authentic Words of Jesus. It's called the Scholars Translation because it is the work of the fellows of the Jesus Seminar. Hear now these words, the words supposedly of the historical Jesus. Taking note of the crowds, he climbed up the mountain, and when he had sat down, his disciples came to him. He then began to speak, and this is what he would teach them. Congratulations to the poor in spirit. Heaven's domain belongs to them. Congratulations to those who grieve. They will be consoled. Congratulations to the gentle. They will inherit the earth. Congratulations to those who hunger and thirst for justice. They will have a feast. Congratulations to the merciful. They will receive mercy. Congratulations to those with undefiled hearts. They will see God. Congratulations to those who work for peace. They will be known as God's children. Congratulations to those who have suffered persecution for the sake of justice. Heaven's domain belongs to them. Here ends the reading. In the program that Red River Unitarian Universalist brings each Sunday, there's a time for practices, and those are typically just moments set aside for prayer or meditation or reflection, sometimes with words and then with music. Today, I want to share a meditation written by Barbara Road that comes from the book Sources of Our Faith, which is a Unitarian Universalist publication. Here's what Barbara Road writes about truth. Of course, truth is hard. It is a rock. Yet I do not think it will fall upon me and crush me. I do not think they can hammer it to bits and stone me. Help me place the rock in the strong current of these rushing waters. I must climb upon it. I must know how truth feels. When I plunge naked into the bright depth of these waters, I must know how truth feels. When I am swept by the cold fury of these waters, I must know with my whole being how truth feels. I shall remember how truth feels. I praise the rock. I praise the river. I fear the drought more than death by water.
Shine on me, oh shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me, oh shine on me, yes, shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me. Lift me up, oh, lift me up. Let the light from the lighthouse lift me up, oh, lift me up, yes, lift me up. Let the light from the lighthouse lift me up, oh, hold me close, yes, hold me close. Let the light from the lighthouse hold me close, yes, hold me close, oh, hold me close. Let the light from the lighthouse, please, hold me close. Oh, shine on me, yes, shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me, oh, shine on me, yes, shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on
The discourse today actually begins with the second reading. So I'll read Dylan Thomas's poem, Do Not Go Gentle into That Good Night, but I won't stop there. I'll just keep talking because I want the poetry to propel us into the thoughts that I want to share. Here's Dylan Thomas, the poet that lived from 1914 to 1953, just 2 years after I was born. In his brief life, he wrote this: Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight and learned too late they grieved it on its way, do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my Father, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Unitarian Universalists like to get guidance from many sources to lead them in their spiritual lives. Direct experience of awe and wonder, religious traditions like the Judeo-Christian one that produced our Jesus, and the secular world, often art, music, poetry, like the poet's voice that we just heard. So I've been giving my best thoughts on how people can cope with the crisis time that we're in right now. And Dylan Thomas's poetry was one voice that I thought I needed to share today, because we're in a crisis of governance, a crisis of identity and awareness of systems of dominance and white supremacy, toxic systems. We have a need and a desire to transcend some practical crises that we're in. Basically, what I've determined is that they're trying to cancel the Enlightenment. They're trying to plunge us really back into the dark ages in many ways. Look at it, really. So science, for example, a product of the Enlightenment. Now, we happen to have an elected president who doesn't really believe in science, or else perhaps doesn't know what it is. I'm not saying this lightly. Medical science has been dismissed. Climate science is not really being acknowledged. Nuclear scientists have been warning us about certain things. They're all trying to help us, but our administration, our leadership, rejects and resists those scientific voices, and people are dying. So turn out the lights in the clinic as you leave. Knowledge and freedom of inquiry are being canceled. Also, products of the Enlightenment just being turned out. For example, the 1619 Project, you might have heard of, that was released a couple of years ago. It's an academic body of work, knowledge, research that seeks to lift up the date 1619 as really an important date in American history. That's the date when the first Africans were brought to this continent by slave traders and began to actually build the country that we're living in. The 1619 Project places the consequences of slavery and the contributions of Black Americans at the center of our national narrative, where they belong. It's a corrective to the history we've been taught. Now, you can argue the premise all you want, but the Trump administration, sorry, didn't mean to say the name, the current administration wants to dictate that this curriculum cannot be taught. Turn out the lights in the library and lock it up when you leave. Human rights and dignity and autonomy over our persons are in danger. Also products in the Enlightenment, equal rights for all, reproductive rights, voting rights, these things are endangered right now. But, ladies, people of color, anyone not wealthy, not in the in crowd, we've been in the dark before, haven't we? We don't want to go back. So, and these crises are all against the ongoing reality that we've still been keeping the old war machine going year in and year out. What's that, you say? Haven't heard about that recently? No, you haven't. Even though we spend about $800 billion a year, about 2/3 of our discretionary spending on military. And that's without even a declared war going on. But that's not in the news, is it? And now you're thinking, come on, preacher, you're going to bring us all the way down? No, but this is why we can't have nice things. Look, preachers like me that say that, so we're just trying to help you guys, okay? We want to help. We feel the fierce urgency of now. We want to offer ways to help you and all of us deal with whatever anger or frustration, the divisions in our country. We want to help you, as Mark Davies did a few weeks ago, help you love the people you don't like. I want to help you tell a new story. We want to help you let your spiritual life give you strength for the journey. And you can help too, by feeding back to the preachers. Leave comments after the worship so that people who come across our programs later know what to look for and know that this is something of value to them as they go. But frankly, when I think about how some people and powers want to risk the progress this country has made and go backward, how they want to snuff out the light of love and replace it with ignorance and suspicion and the risk of a dangerous dark time ahead. No, I don't want to go gentle into that good night. I want to fight that. And now I'm afraid I'm going to get in trouble with Jesus because I'm supposed to be gentle. So, yes, I follow Jesus. Maybe not the same Jesus that other people seem to be following. So I have to ask the question, what would Jesus do? And I don't know, honestly, because I'm not sure we really know what Jesus did do. Today, systems of certainty have been unraveling so fast that a lot of us progressive seekers and believers feel quite overwhelmed these days. I get that. I do. I know I'm speaking to some of you out there who just want it all to stop. And you may think, we can't handle the truth. But I'm telling you, we don't even know what the truth is. But I have good news, because progressive seekers, first of all, have a secret weapon for living with ambiguity. You don't know it, but you do. I'm going to tell you what it is. We have our traditional mistrust of, let's say, the biblical record. Right? You spent your whole life being cynical about what you've read in the Bible and everything you've heard about organized religion. Yes? You can use this to your advantage now. If you just take the same skepticism that you've used with organized religion and all the messages you've heard, if you take that same skepticism and critical thinking and apply it to everything you hear now, all the madness you're getting in the mainstream media, I think you'll be all right. So that's your first secret weapon, and I'm going to show you how to use it. The second secret weapon that I have that I'm ready to share with you now is this mug. Or actually, it's what's written on this mug. I don't know if you can tell because it's pretty fancy writing. It says right here, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Yeah, that's right. This is the Serenity Prayer. It is the motto of the 12-step program, and I got 20 years in 12-step program, which is the only reason I'm sitting here today. So I bought this mug in a monastery gift shop where I was on a retreat. I've been there a couple of times, but I came by the mug honestly, as I say, with 20 years of 12-step work. Regardless of what you think about a higher power, doesn't matter. It's a pretty good program for keeping your equanimity. And I'm going to tell you about an addition to that particular little formula in a minute. But let's look at how that's going to play out. Let's look at, first of all, what I told you about the suspicion of texts. And let's apply it to the gospel text I read and see what we can learn. The gospel text I read, the Beatitudes, with the new translation from the scholars, calling the Beatitudes, saying congratulations. So what was it about that changed? When Jesus says congratulations to the poor in spirit, heaven's domain belongs to them, then he says congratulations to those who grieve. That's a little bit startling. That is not the sweet pastoral Jesus that you were led to believe, right? This is a little bit disruptive. This is almost a sarcastic Jesus. This is a disruptive figure. And then the scholars look at that and think, yeah, that's probably right. Why? Because anything someone says that's memorable enough to be written down after decades was probably authentic. Remember, this was carried in the oral tradition. None of this was written contemporaneously. It was only later, after this movement had grown, for no apparent reason. It was only later that people started writing down, yeah, this is what we remember. So it was only things that would have been memorable that would have gotten into the book. And then they looked at the congratulations to those who hunger and thirst for justice. They will have a feast. That part that almost sounds like a threat, he probably did say something like that. The scholars looked at what was counterintuitive to say what was likely to be authentic. And they looked at what wasn't in other gospels. He probably did say, give to the emperor what's the emperor, but give to God what is God's. He probably did say something like turn the other cheek, because you recall the Hebrew Bible was all about revenge. He almost certainly said love your enemy, which was an improvement over an eye for an eye. And he almost certainly promised that somehow, someday, the last would be first and the first would be last. Another ambiguous, enigmatic, possible warning, let's say. But remember, there have been hundreds of years as they developed the canon to scrub the story of those enigmatic, cryptic cues. So I infer from what is left out of the record that this Jesus was something different. And somehow made that impact, that caused that movement. It's the old story about someone who sees the Grand Canyon for the first time, looks at it, and just remarks, something happened here. We don't know what. I don't know why they didn't take the unsettling texts out. There's plenty of evidence that they put in some soothing things like, blessed are the merciful, they will receive mercy. The scholars believe that was an interpolation, just something to put in, make them sound nice. Why didn't they take the weird ones out too? Maybe they were afraid to, because they did think he was coming right back. There's a lot of views about Jesus and who he was. For me, the most compelling item is this. You don't execute a comforting pastor. You execute a radical revolutionary. We've seen that in our time. So I go by the effect of his life, the context of the story, and I believe that the Jesus that was executed was not someone who's telling everybody to be kind and obedient to the powers that be. I believe that this Jesus was telling the truth. And the truth is that all people, women and the poor and the outcasts and the people of color, which they were fully equal and empowered persons, fully beloved by God, heirs to the reign of heaven on earth. And you know, we can't have that. We assassinate people who tell the truth because all truths are inconvenient to people who live on lies. So right now, I got a few things to say about the people in power who are staying in power by telling me lies, and they're not very gentle things. I don't want to go gentle into that good night. But I also don't want to be tricked into violence, because at violence, I will lose. I don't know what Jesus would do, since his record has been so corrupted and co-opted. So I looked again to the East, but more recently, I looked to the teachings of Gandhi, whose birthday was recently. It was actually October 2nd, I believe. So happy birthday, Gandhi. And I recall that in the 1930s, about 1900 years after Jesus started his liberation movement, Gandhi led the people of India to throw off British rule, and he did it with the power of truth, satyagraha, holding firmly or insistence. That's the satya. Satya is the truth part, and then graha is the insistence, holding firmly on truth. The rock we already talked about. Someone who practices satyagraha is a satyagrahi. They accept the discipline to resist injustice, resist their own anger, not very easy, risk loss of property, also not easy, and risk suffering, all of which Jesus had been teaching, I thought. So I understand this is not to be confused with violent resistance. I'm not allowed to punch people in the face when they try to take away my rights. Darn. I understand too, it is not to be confused with non-violence, non-resistance. I'm not allowed to just sit back when somebody tries to turn off the light of human thought. But I am allowed, in fact, I'm required to resist, to speak out, and declare my intention to keep speaking out, even if it means giving up my prestigious corporate sponsorship and alienate some of my family. I'm just kidding, of course, because I have no prestigious corporate sponsor, and my family doesn't pay any attention to my shenanigans anymore. There's a wonderful biblical formula. You have heard it said, but I say unto you. That's when you know you're going to get the true truth. So here's my version. You have heard it said, you can't handle the truth. But I say unto you, you can't afford the truth. Here's why I say that. Excuse me. Americans aren't stupid, and we're not bad. We're just ignorant and scared. But we're scared because we know we're ignorant. And we're ignorant because we know we don't have access to the truth anymore. And here's why I say that. Our sources of information, for the most part, are now in the hands of the for-profit media, the corporations, the big, the oligarchic, the corporations are the main providers of news now. News companies are part of entertainment companies, which are for-profit corporations. All right, this is counterintuitive. Look, ABC is owned by the Walt Disney Company. CNN is owned by Time Warner, which is another entertainment giant. News is a commodity. It's not even being sold in a free market. News Corp owns Fox, the Wall Street Journal, and the New York Post. Comcast and GE own MSNBC NBC News, and CNBC. Verizon, which now owns AOL, owns the Huffington Post. So if you thought that was a nice alternative source, not anymore. So, all right, I know it leaves us NPR and a few other places, but that's not going to be enough either. So, Satyagraha, the power of truth, means we have to find the truth. Who is telling the truth? Where do we go to find out who knows the truth about climate change? Who owns that truth? Where do we go to find out who owns the truth and who is telling us the truth about the militarization of our economy? How do we know we are listening to voices that are not part of the corporate enterprises that own our politics? As we said in the meditation, as Barbara said, I do not fear the truth. I fear the drought more than the river. Our governments, well, I could go on and on. You get the point. The point is it's going to take more than just sitting back with the remote in our hands to learn the truth. It's going to take some digging. So now I have to add the final petition to the Serenity Prayer. You'll say it along with me in your minds, I hope, because it's a good one. Higher power, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, the wisdom to know the difference, and the courage to change the things I cannot accept. In my little life, here's where the courage has come in. And I invite you to just hear my confession, and you can ask yourself, what about you? It's taken courage for me. I've asked for the courage and got it. The courage to ignore the clickbait outrage of the mainstream media and look for real facts. I'm getting pretty good at that. I have found some independent journalists that I follow and I read critically, and then I go looking for facts myself. I asked for the courage and I got it to leave Facebook. I don't know what it does to me, but it does something bad to me. It fills me with fear of missing out and envy and depression, and I know that it does this intentionally, and I can't withstand it, and it's not good for, so I left. It's toxic. My husband is not affected the same way. He uses it to post his political messages, trying to clean up that toxic swamp. So good for him. But I left, and it took courage to do it. I am now asking for the courage to change my relationship with my physical neighborhood. It was okay when we could count on our connectedness to be enough, but you know what? It's possible that things will get harder for us in our physical spaces. I think we might need the courage to connect with our actual physical neighbors more than we have. It's counterintuitive. Might be time to really get to know your neighbors. I was in a meeting where they said this profound truth. Resilience of a people happens at the speed of trust. If the lights really do go out, I think you're going to want to know who lives with you on your block. Don't believe the message that it's unsafe to go out. It's unsafe to hang out in bars and beaches. But it's not unsafe. In fact, it's the opposite of unsafe to finally get to meet the people in your cul-de-sac. I'm looking for courage to rip out my useless front lawn, which is a waste of water and space, and plant food crops. I'm looking for the courage to risk my good credit rating by refusing to pay taxes to support the killing I don't believe we should be doing. I'm looking for the courage to keep preaching messages like this. The message that says, guys, it's worse than you think. And then to hope people don't click away before they hear me say, but you are so much more powerful than you know. So I'm in it to win it. I'm in it with whatever I've got, because I think it's going to take whatever it takes for us to keep the lights of civilization on by our insistence on the truth. But if night falls, anyhow, will you and I all be the way Dylan Thomas described the good men will be? Good men, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay, who will rage against the dying of the light. I don't know. I know that I don't want to be a wannabe. I would rather be a has-been than a never was. And if I do rage against the dying of the light, if I do not go gentle enough, then I really don't think I'll be in too much trouble with Jesus, because I don't think Jesus went all that gently either. We'll see soon enough. In the meantime, as always, let it be unto you according to your faith. Amen.
Change is coming. What do we need to imagine? Change is coming. What do we need to imagine?
'Cause I know from brokenness there's hope. I know from brokenness there's hope.
And now I leave you with this parting thought from Mahatma Gandhi, who said, "In a gentle way, you can shake the world." If you are watching this premiere, then you're invited to click the link in the description that takes you to the fellowship time with Red River Unitarian Universalists. At any time, you're invited to like this video, and then please leave a public comment so that people know what you liked about it and know whether or not it's something that might appeal to them. You're invited to share it with friends, family, anybody. Let's get the word out to people that they have something to give, and there is more light and truth yet to break forth in this world. And now, receive this benediction, please, as offered in the spirit of love and inclusion. Finally, dear sisters and brothers and siblings, whatever things are true, whatever things are honorable, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there is any virtue, if there is any praise, think about these things and do these things, and the God of peace will be with you. We extinguish this flame, but never the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Hi there. Next Sunday, October 11th, we're having a special worship service. It is the UU Get Out the Vote National Worship Service. We're joining other congregations across the country this month, looking at ways in which we can become empowered to learn and to become more involved with UU the Vote. Join us on Sunday and learn the ways that Unitarian Universalists across the country are on the forefront campaign to register voters, to let people learn about the problems our democracy is in right now. It's an important service, and we hope that you will join us. Thanks.